Live. All right, everyone watching this, what we're going to be diving into today is continuity offer sequences. Basically, because how to use email sequences to create more of the lifeblood in your business, which is predictable revenue. Because otherwise, you're always going to be chasing that feast and famine in business. And luckily, Brad specializes in this kind of thing. So, Brad.
Yeah, so like Pete said, these are we decided not to give these each their own separate episode. Some of the things we're going to be talking about here, just because it would get kind of repetitive to, because they're interrelated. It makes more sense to discuss them all at once. So there's a series of email flows or sequences that aim to get the maximum possible value out of your recurring revenue offer, your continuity offer, your subscription offer. So basically, I call it my subscription Ascension system. That's what I've named this. Basically, taking someone from first moving on to subscription all the way to having them have multiple enlarged subscriptions. So there's multiple steps to this, and I actually might have to, just to have the infographic in front of me, I might have to pull up the my Substack post, because I have a little, yeah, it's so they go from a repeat buyer, they become, a subscriber, to, as in recurring, your recurring revenue offer. Then the next stage would be you get them to add something to their next order on a one-off basis. They become what I call like an active subscriber. So they're now more engaged in not in the email sense, in the as a customer, as a buyer sense. They're more engaged because they made that extra decision to add something new to their next order, as a one-off, kind of like a try this type of thing. And then from there they become a power subscriber, I like to say, once they've enlarged their original recurring delivery. And then they become a full routine customer once they've expanded into having a subscription for a second product entirely. So they kind of move up that ladder. You go from nothing to subscriber who added something, to subscriber at a larger amount, larger dollar value of the same item, to multi-product subscriber. Basically, as you can see, they're kind of ascending like a ladder or a set of stairs, and becoming more valuable along the way. So those are the stages, and obviously there are email sequences that are the bridges or the ladders, however, whatever, analogy you want to use to visualize it, but they connect each of these stages. So the first one is the subscription renewal flow. So a lot of people are probably familiar with this one. Actually, technically, the first one is the push to continuity flow, the one that, someone who's bought multiple times, the one that sells them on upgrading to a subscription. But we covered that not last week, we missed last week. So 2 weeks ago, we covered that. So, but just brief recap, that one is people who have bought like the same product at least twice or three times. You send them that to try to get them on a subscription. So if they bought if they've ordered the same coffee 3 months in a row or something, you upsell them into getting it on recurring automatic delivery. So subscription renewal flow. A lot of people who have paid subscriptions to these kinds of things probably familiar with this. It's, you get an email or two as your order is coming up, and usually you'll get they'll try to upsell you on something in there. That's the subscription renewal flow. So let me run through that real quick. Actually, we'll run through each individual one after I cover the other two, just so we have heard all of them. After that is the subscription upgrade flow. So so the renewal flow, obviously it triggers as the next one is coming up. The upgrade flow is going to trigger after they've been a subscriber for, I can't remember I think it's like after their like second repeat order, so their third overall order or something like that, is when they'll get the subscription upgrade flow. And this is a series of emails showing them the benefits of getting, selling them on getting more of the same thing. So if they have your product A, it's getting them more of product A, right? And then finally, the subscription expansion flow, which is, moving them from just being a subscriber of one product to being a subscriber of multiple products. So it's kind of making more of a full routine, so to speak, or making your customer very integrated, more into more part of the brand because they're getting multiple products. So those are the the things that the bridges between each stage would be all of each of those sequences. So let me find where I put that document. Well, let's go through each one real quick. Unless Pete, if you have anything to add there, I do actually now realize probably talk a little bit about the info product side of things, like digital products and whatnot. Um, all of these can be modified likely for digital products. Because obviously, like digital product, like if you're getting meat delivered to your door, the renewal reminder flow is obviously going to try to sell them on adding more to their meat box. But if it's like a membership or something, you can still do like a renewal flow that's like reminding them of the benefits of the membership or these kinds of things. So if it's like that's a continuity offer, like a digital the digital product version of like continuity offers. So there's still you can still modify these for that. But with that said, let me get into the actual flows themselves. So the subscription renewal flow is very short. I just like to do 2 emails. Um, One of them is reminding them the subscriptions renewing soon,
Yeah.
and reiterating, showing them what's included and why it's great, and then encourage them to add other items to their order that complement the items that they have. Well, the more you can personalize it, the better. That might require some technical wrangling, but if they're getting a certain product and you think that another product would pair well with that, then you want to try to have it recommend that product to them, right? So I think I'm not sure if there's like some widgets or whatever, like someone in the email can just like click the button and it'll automatically like take them to their like your brand's like storefront, like login or whatever that they have, and just it'll automatically like add it to the subscription or add it to their next box or whatever. So the simpler you can make it for them to do that, the better. But the pardon me, the second email is mostly the same, just try to find a slightly different angle, emphasize the convenience, emphasize the ability to try something new. Maybe even if you want to, you could try saying like one time only discount on that particular thing. Because if someone gets it and then they discover that they love the item that they added, that discount might be the cost of getting them to add it permanently to their subscribe and save or something like that. So yeah, but there's the subscription renewal flow. That one should basically trigger every single time that their subscription is coming up. And yeah, no more than 2 emails because there's just not enough time to fit more than 2 emails. And also, you just start to get annoying if you try to repeatedly harass like your subscribers that your order's coming up, buy something. 2 is like the upper limit, and also there's just not enough time, like in a month to like have that and then have all the other flows. So yeah, it's pretty short. So actually, all of these are pretty short. So that one's just the shortest though. So next is the subscription upgrade flow. So kind of like a lot of these other ones we talked about in the past, you want to start by emphasizing the importance of consistency and talk about how running out can disrupt your progress or your enjoyment if it's something that isn't like about progress. Like again, if it's like something
Yeah.
like coffee or candles, something that's not like something that's more of like a not a luxury item, but you know what I mean, something that's less of a need, I guess. Um, but yeah, it disrupts whatever it is that they're getting out of having it repeatedly, and so then you position a larger subscription as obviously the protection against that. So yeah, if they're getting or if they're getting some amount of protein powder or something like that, and then they're using more of it because it's really delicious and they need extra calories, or someone else in the house is now using it. It's like, well, to protect against that, you get a larger tub or you get 2 tubs
Yeah.
instead of one. And so you're getting them to, and that's not on a one-off basis, that's on a monthly basis. So now they're getting 2 tubs every month. So now you've just like doubled, the amount. Heart and Soil, the supplement company, they didn't quite do it with me because I do still do it every 2 months now, but I do have a bigger subscription with them. I used to have just 1 jar of their supplement. Now I have 2, but I get it every 2 months because it's desiccated organs, and you actually, I think, like, it's not like taking like a bunch of like a drug and like a medicine, but you don't want to like overdo organs either because the concentration of like the vitamins and stuff in there. And so otherwise though, like they might be this might that might be a situation where they like well, in that case it'd be an expansion because it's more of a or it's a different product. But the upgrade flow, let me get back to the emails that are in it. So yeah, basically, highlighting how you know running out disrupts their routine or their enjoyment or whatever. This larger subscription is the way to protect against that, and that if they get a larger subscription, usually, the more if you buy a larger amount of some consumable good, usually you'll get a bigger discount. Like a lot of brands I work with, if you get like a larger amount of a good or of a product, you'll get a bulk savings, and then the subscription also might have savings, and so you can use that as a selling point as well. You get like, if you get the two tubs instead of the one, well, if one tub is $20, well, two tubs might be $38, right? So you save a little bit there, and then you save more for the subscribe and save. So you're emphasizing all the savings you're stacking.
Yeah.
Email two is just appealing a little bit to their identity. It's basically like how top customers stay stocked. Um, you know, the
Yeah.
subscription and expanding the subscription. This is how our this is how the people who are achieving the most in this area, that they have a larger subscription or something like that. And then include some social proof if you can. And then email three is just a, hey, what's holding you back from getting more, basically. I mean, not phrased that way, but you're kind of,
Yeah.
if they, and the whole point is this triggers after a few months, a few successful orders. So after someone's been a successful subscriber for a few months, the assumption is that they're using it regularly, and so you can kind of reasonably assume that there's probably some opportunity, or like some large portion of those customers that reach that point probably have a need for more of it. Like, I don't know, like for example, a skincare product. Maybe they start using it just on their face, but then it turns out, oh, my hands get dry, so now they're using more of it, right? Or they just discover that it's a lot better than their other stuff that they use, so now they're using more of it, right? So um, those people tend to be the ones who there's probably a bigger need later on for more. And the subscription expansion flow is kind of similar, except for it's getting them to subscribe to a different product versus getting more of the same product. So, and ideally, you get them to subscribe to recurring delivery of the other product right away. Even if you fail, they might at least buy another product one off. But the whole point is, since they're already a subscriber of one, and you're selling a product that's like similar but in a different category, it won't be as hard to get them to immediately on a subscription. Like, think of if like products paired really well together. Like, I don't know if like there are like online coffee retailers also would sell like creamer or something like that, but they might, So like, you might be a recurring coffee subscriber to a coffee brand, and then you need creamer, but you haven't been let down by this brand before, so you might just go straight over and hop on a creamer subscription, and now you're getting both at once. You might not do the intermediary step of buying it on a one-off to make sure you like it before committing to a subscription. That's the kinds of people that the subscription expansion flow is targeting. So this one, you're acknowledging their loyalty and their coming or staying with the brand, and being a subscriber, basically. And then you're introducing this next product as like the logical companion. You find whatever ways you can tie the two products together, obviously, to make the pairing make sense. And then email two goes a little deeper on the pairing explanation, and whatever that looks like. Like if it's supplements, you might explain like the science behind it or something like that. So you do that, and then you remind them, they can change their order, they can edit their order at any time. You want to try to do that throughout most of these, since you are trying to upsell them to something or cross sell them to something. You do want to make it clear again that they can edit their order and manage their order at any time, and make it clear that customer service is available, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can either call it there with an email three that's kind of like the what's holding you back, or you can have another email. You have like a third email that is like more social proof oriented if you wanted. But I mean, you can honestly get away with just pairing, deeper explanation of the pairing, what's holding you back from, you know, getting the next product basically. So, one other way of doing the subscription expansion is if you have like multiple top products, you can do like you could like feature like you could have like 4 emails or something. Each one features like a different product for them to go to. If you're able to like if you have like one hero product and everyone's getting that, and then they branch off to different paths to like those other products, or I don't know, something like that. Or if you're able to personalize so that if they buy a product from this category, that it'll automatically recommend, each email will be for all the other categories except for the one they already bought. So you can do something like that too, where it's just each product or category or whatever just gets its own email and that expansion flow. So each one is highlighted. But I tend to lean towards like just going for one, like then the one next logical product, focusing fire, so to speak, on one product rather than trying to do one email across many different products. It's just there, you remove unnecessary choice for the reader. So yeah, I know there's kind of a lot there that we just went through, but I think if you think about what someone needs at each like stage, I mean, if you just think about logically, like someone going from never having met your brand before to buying once to becoming a repeat buyer to finally getting on the subscription to trying something new while on the subscription to enlarging their subscription. So now they're really bought into, now they're getting a subscription to another product. Now they're like, I feel like I need a better name than full routine customer, because I came up with that thinking about like supplements and a routine, but
Yeah.
there are products like coffee where it's not like, well, it's kind of a routine, but like maybe I need a better word for that. But they're the most bought in. They're they're on multiple subscriptions, or you could say like one very large subscription. Depend, like a meat box company may or may not like if you get like 2 different subscriptions, if they have a big enough box, they may all put it in one order. But they've essentially also become like a very committed full routine customer, so to speak. So that's the whole point, though, is you're always you're always trying to get more value. It's either you keep them on for longer, or you find out how to make them be paying you more. So that's what the subscription ascension system here does. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's thinking about the customer journey and anticipating their needs at certain points and just making sure that you have flows that intersect those points at the right time, right? Is essentially what we're doing here, right? Like like where are they now? Where do they want to be? How can we best suit both parties, right?
yep, that's that's how I develop these, or the ideas for these, is because I was thinking of that for, I can't say the brand. I think it was like animal based food or supplements or something like that. And I noticed that like I thought about like someone who had been on a subscription, like they're not getting any like, I was thinking like we were doing these cross sells for people or for different people and upsells and what, I'm like, what about people who are on a subscription? Like there are very like there are gaps in that journey that email sequences could fill. And I'm like, oh yeah, so someone who is getting X amount of meat chips. Well, how do we get them to get or one bag? How do we get them to get 2 bags? Well, and add a bunch of extra revenue right there. Um, on a recurring basis, of course. And I also was thinking, like, I saw people talking about how, they would get their order and they'd run out really fast because it was so tasty, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, there seems to be, that's like a missing or a step of the journey that doesn't have any scaffolding, or it's like, how do we get, like we should be encouraging them to stop, get a larger subscription, because then they won't have that problem. So yeah, like you said, it's just, it's like knowing where they are, finding all those little gaps, and there's probably an email sequence that can be built for those gaps, just like there is here.
Exactly. Yeah, man, that's solid.
Yeah. So let me see, make sure I didn't miss anything on this topic. I guess a few quick specifics on these. So, with a subscription renewal flow, something like that, you want it to send close enough to you obviously want to have it not you don't want any of the emails to send after the order processes because that wouldn't make sense. It has to send, you know, but it can't send like right after they just got their last order. If it's on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
if day one, they shouldn't be getting, the reminder on day two if the order processes that or if the order arrives day one. So, you know, 3 to 5 days before the order processes, and that gives you enough time. 3 days, gives you enough time for two emails. You can do one, that first day, and then 2 days later for like, hey, tomorrow your order processes. Last chance to add anything. Um, and yeah, subscription upgrade flow. Two consecutive renewals, so three total orders. So the first order, and then renewal one is month, two, order two. Renewal two is month three or order three. And so at that point, you know, you could trigger it sooner, I suppose. But I mean, people who make it only on one renewal aren't as committed as someone who's done two renewals. And then this expansion flow, I believe we have. I don't know, after three consecutive renewals. Of course, those are always numbers you can play with and A/B test. Although, given that they're the scale it's monthly numbers. Like that could be a long running test because you'll have to wait a whole extra month as part of a test to see what happens. But um, and you want it, you want the upgrade and the expansion flows to be like halfway between. So if it's a monthly thing, you want them to run from like days 14 to like, what would that be, like 14 to 20 or something like that. That way the the uh the renewal flow has like another five or something. You see what I mean? Like there's also something you just have to look at. Like you have to look at your spacing of all your email sequences and make sure these flows aren't overrunning each other or even like too close, smashed too close together. So it does take a little bit of finesse to make sure those all fit properly uh within like a monthly constraint. But yeah,
Now, what is the now you do a lot of ecom. What is your guys' normal sending schedule for like broadcast emails? Are you guys is it daily? Like every other day? Like what do you reckon? Like as because I know the big thing, especially in email marketing, especially info publishing, coaching, and stuff like that, people typically email daily. But like in ecom, do you find it's the same?
it varies.
Yeah.
Like we have one client who we mail almost daily, but not to the same people.
Hmm.
Um, the new customer segment gets emails 7 days a week because they get a few sends dedicated just to people who have never bought before. And
Got it.
then and that so that'll be they get the general engaged sends, and then they get the never bought only sends, and then they end up getting an email every day, whereas other people might get 4 or 5 days a week. But with them, it
Got
was
it.
that. With another supplement company, we're doing 3 days a week. Um, I mean, it depends on their comfort with the cadence or the frequency. Some people are fine with that. Some people just want to do a couple a week. So, um, yeah,
Yeah. And when you have these flows set up, it doesn't matter if they go out on the same days as the broadcasts. You just have them go out whenever, usually.
yeah. I mean, if someone is in a flow, I'll just have a flows exclusion segment, and
Okay.
I'll just leave them out because I know that you could, in theory, like have it so that if your broadcasts are all sending at a certain time, that you can have like a flow. You can have it,
Yeah.
trigger 5 days later, but only trigger at like 8 a.m. So if it's already past 8 a.m., you can have it send immediately or wait till the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's simpler to just be like, all right, here's a segment of anyone who is in any flows. They will just be removed because there's like the flow is supposed to be doing the job of selling them on something. Unless it's some that don't, like sunset flow, but if they're in an abandoned cart or something, that it that's the more likely sale is this thing that they abandoned. So that keep them focused on that, and then you know that anyone who's not in any flows, then they can get the regular emails because those are the emails that they are not, they're not actively receiving anything currently. So
Yeah.
those are the people that you send your broadcast to.
Gotcha.
Sweet. Well, I think we covered the topic pretty well. Whole point of these, and I have articles also on my Substack on each of these as well. So
Perfect.
um, people can, just go on my Substack and look for, the word subscription, and you'll probably find them. But yeah, uh, but if you put these in place, you'll get more recurring revenue. I mean, it's that
Yeah.
simple.
That's that's the holy grail of not just online business, any business, right? A lot of people, I don't know, they come up with one offer and they just continually try to just sell that. But if you have some form of continuity, at least you know what you got what you got coming in every month, right? And then you can go from there.
Yeah, and what's funny about continuity is that you do actually never stop selling. Like people, like I don't. I guess I won't know that much, but I've seen the inside of these businesses, and just logic would tell you that don't actually ever stop selling. And I mean that in a few ways.
Oh,
First,
yeah,
you always have to be delivering the content. Like
yeah,
Chris Orzakowski's Make It Rain Monthly. He never stops selling because he has to constantly reiterate, even like the emails he sends reiterate to current subscribers, the
yeah.
value of it, but also the content itself he needs to, even if it's really valuable on its own, part of it is also getting you to like use the content, and
Yeah, yeah.
getting you to continuously believe that the content is valuable. But then you always have to be selling in like the technical financial sense, because even if it's recurring revenue, you still will have a churn rate. So like,
Always. Yeah.
the ironic thing about recurring revenue stuff is that you actually, even though it's passive in a sense, it's actually just as active. You have to it's more active in some sense because you have to continuously bring new people in, and then you have to continuously, in some sense, resell your current people on staying. So, which is almost, I mean, that's basically how selling one-off products works if you think about it.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
it's still preferable to have recurring revenue though. But if you go in them with the mindset of like, I need to constantly be getting more people and working hard to keep my current people on board, which isn't like fake, you're not like forcing anything. You're just continuously delivering the, solutions to the problems that they have. Then obviously, like I'd rather have the recurring revenue thing, even if I'm working just as hard at acquiring new customers and keeping the existing ones, because at that point it's like, yeah, you're adding more and more to a recurring pool of money, so it is still
Yeah.
more
Exactly.
valuable.
Yeah, man. It's solid.
Sweet. Well, there's nothing else. I think we're good.
Perfect. All right, dude. All
All
right.
right, thanks for joining.
Thanks to everybody that came. So, all
Hmm. See y'all.
right. See ya.